Hi friends, how are you today? Hi, how's it going? My name is Bailey Sarian and today is Monday, which means it's Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bailey Sarian and on Mondays I like to sit down and talk about a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin. And I do my makeup at the same time. If you're interested in true crime and you like makeup, I would suggest you subscribe because I'm here for you on Mondays. I need to just jump into this one because this has kept me up for days, hours. I deep dived. I downloaded all of the court documents, all of the interviews. I highlighted, I labeled. I took many notes. Many notes. This one has just gripped me. I was familiar with this story, but I never got a chance to do a deep dive. And boy, it's just one of those stories or cases that has so many legs to it. It's confusing, overwhelming, and at the end of the day, it was closed and determined to be an accident from falling off of a balcony. But there are so many signs that point to that not being the case. I believe that because, girl, let me tell you. Today we're talking about Tamla Horsford and what the fuck happened, okay? Let me put my notes down. There's nowhere to put them. I've got makeup everywhere. Also, I apologize I didn't do my hair today. I know. Oh, how dare I? How dare I showing up like this? But here I am. So, when it comes to this case, there are so many different theories. Let's just say that. There's a lot of different theories, and there's so many things to weed through where it's you almost don't know what's true and what's just kind of speculation at some point. So I'm going to just tell the story based off of the police interviews and police reports and shit like that. And then towards the end, start weeding in the theories. And then towards the end, I am going to share my personal theory as to what happened. And I think might be onto something. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. It's just kind of making sense. Let me not get ahead of myself because you probably just want to know what the hell the story is. I'm wearing a tube top. I'm not naked, I swear. Is this okay? Doesn't matter. Let me live, and I'll let you live too. Oh, if you're ever curious to know what I'm using, I'll list it for you in the description box. YouTube has this new thing where you can link it in the corner over here or something like that. So if you see it pop up, it's that's the product I'm using. I don't know if it helps or not, but it's cool. Okay. So it's November 4th, 2018, and about a dozen or so friends are getting together to watch a football game between LSU and Alabama. The partygoers are mostly moms who know each other because their children play in the same football league together. But the game isn't the only reason they're getting together. The hostess, her name is Jean Myers, was also celebrating her 45th birthday, and she wanted it to be a girls' night / slumber party because, she wanted everyone to come over, watch the game, drink, and have a place to stay so they didn't have to worry about driving that night. So some of her friends put together the guest list and planned the party at Jean's house in Forsyth County, Georgia. It's worth mentioning, Forsyth County, Georgia is mainly white. It's a white region with a very long history of racism. Fact. For about 75 years, Black people were not allowed to even live in this county. And if they did, they were met with hostility, violence, and even murder. There were many public hangings held here, or 5,000 to 8,000 residents would show up and watch the public hangings. Mind you, the community was 10,000 people when this was going on. So you could say a lot of fucking people from the community showed up. According to the 2023 census, only 3.75% of the population there is Black. The vast majority of residents are mainly white. And just a couple of years ago, a man was not allowed to vote simply because he was wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. And he caught it on video. It was just a fucking shit show. And then, even before this, many indigenous people were forced out of this area, which was their land, because white people had heard that there was gold there and wanted the land. So this was actually called the Trail of Tears. And if you want to know more, I did an episode of Dark History about it. It's all worth mentioning because ignorance and racism doesn't get washed away overnight. I'm hopeful you're aware of that. You know, most of the time, a lot of the time, it gets passed on from generation to generation. And it's probably not the ideal place to be if you're a person of color and need help from the people in charge. Like many of the local police throughout the years, and even in this case, had been caught or have been caught saying racist things. Some were fired, some were simply relocated, and it just sounds like a real shit show, you know? Just to give you some background here, I really could do like a whole episode of Dark History on just this county. Honestly, I was like, holy shit, woo! But I'm giving you that background because it plays a lot with how this case was handled. Okay, well, Jean's party. Her party was going to be pretty tame. So in addition to watching the game, the plan was for the gals to play games like Card Against Humanity. You know, again, drink, eat, watch the game, hang out. Jean really didn't want anyone to drink and drive, so she told her guests to spend the night at her place. She had children, and for her party, they were away at their father's house, so she had plenty of spare rooms for her guests to sleep in. And she lived in like a pretty big house. It was like 3 stories and lots of rooms. Okay, so I'll try to describe what the house looks like. Sorry if it's confusing. But when you walk in the front door, to the right was like a formal dining area. And then if you walk down the hall, straight down the hall, it would open to like the living room area. And to the right of the living room area was the kitchen area with another seating place to like eat at. And then in the living room area, there was a back door which led you to the outside patio / balcony. And this balcony area was like 14 feet off the ground. There were stairs back there that led you down to the grassy backyard area. So on that lower level where the grass is at in the backyard, there's also a door. You could access the basement through that door. And this basement was like fully furnished, redone. It was like another entertainment room. And also where Jean's aunt was living. Her name is Madeline. Yes, Madeline or whatever. Her name was Madeline. So she was living there. And Madeline wasn't Jean's like biological aunt, just a close friend of the family who she referred to as her aunt, you know? So originally, like I said, girls' night. No guys were supposed to be there. Her boyfriend, Jose Barrera, made plans with his guy friends to go out that night. So, you know, they wouldn't like cramp the girls' night at all, right? So the guys decided to like meet up at Jean's place first. And then they were going to take off, get out of their way. So as Jean's friends are arriving for her birthday party, so were a couple of the dudes. I don't know how long Jean and her boyfriend had been dating at this time, but I will say, you know, Jean was turning 45 and her boyfriend Jose was 27. I mean, usually when it's the other way around, like the man is 20 years older, everyone was like, oh my God, ew. So I thought I'd mention it, to be fair. So once the guys had arrived, it was said that they were, quote, not feeling too hot, like the flu was going around or something. So they decided to just stay in at Jean's house, and they decided like, okay, let's just hang out in the basement area where Madeline lived and keep separate from the girls' party upstairs. That way we're out of their way like they wanted, because they wanted to watch the game as well. They're doing their things, right? Whatever. During halftime, the guys decide to come upstairs to get some food. And before you know it, these guys are part of the party. So in total, there are about 10 people at the party. That's not counting Jean and Jose, the boyfriend. So 12. 12 people in total. Now, I wasn't sure if I should mention everyone at the party because it could get really confusing. But I'll drop names as I go. But it's worth spotlighting 2 people who become important. Or who are important, first of all. We have Jean's good friend and a guest at the party. Her name is Bridget Fuller. And then there's Miss Tamla Horsford. The story's about Tamla. So it was said that Tamla was not particularly close to Jean. Like, she knew Jean because they both had sons who played in the same football league, and they had met and bonded during practices and games. And the weekend before, Tamla was invited to Jean's house for a pumpkin carving party with the kids. But at this point, like, the friendship was still very new. So I guess you could say like this sleepover slash birthday party was kind of like a step forward in their friendship. Tamla, who also went by Tam, was an extremely busy mother of 5 kids, 4 of them being young boys. Okay, she had her hands full. Tam was born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 1978, up until her parents had moved, or her whole family had moved to the Bronx in 1989. Tamla then met her husband in Florida at some point, and her husband had a daughter from a previous relationship, but the two of them would go on to have 5 sons together. Yeah, 5 boys. Oh, poor thing. Her youngest was only 4 years old, where like her oldest was 15. So being surrounded by boys all the time, this was like a chance to let loose with the girls and have a little fun, you know? At the time, Tam was a stay-at-home mom who really supported whatever her kids' activities were. Like, she was always there for them. She was on top of them, always making sure that they got everything done, like their homework done. You know, she's always being present for them, supporting them in any way possible. She was just a very involved parent. Love to see it, right? Beyond that, Tam's friends would say that she was fiercely loyal, the sort of person who would stand up for you, have your back, or be there for you, like for whatever you needed. Her best friend, Michelle Graves, said that Tam would like give you the shirt off her back if you mentioned you liked it. And it's worth noting that, again, all the friends at this party are white. Tam was the only Black woman there. So the first guests show up around 7 at Jean's house, but Tam didn't make it until about 8:30 p.m. And Tam tells the group that she was behind because she was making dinner for her family, and then she needed to make a pit stop before arriving. But Tam makes it to the house. When she gets there, she sets her overnight bag, like right behind the living room couch, and is like the first one to get into her pajamas. Tamla puts on like these cute white onesie pajamas that have dog prints all over them. It even has like a hood with ears attached to the hood. It's just cute, and like she was having some fun. It was said that once Tamla had arrived, at that point everyone had started drinking, and I just have to say that these ladies drink, okay? There was some interviews I was listening to where they were talking about putting vodka in their cups at the children's like football games and stuff. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? But like they loved alcohol so much, these ladies. Oh, it was just, I don't know. So they like to drink, okay? So they had already started drinking by the time Tamla had gotten here. So when she first gets there, I guess there's alcohol out. So she poured herself a shot of Fireball, takes it. And then she pulls out a bottle of tequila that she brought. She had gotten it from Mexico on like a recent trip. And it was her birthday gift to Jean. She's like, here you go, happy birthday, whatever. So Jean, when she gets a tequila bottle, she like announces to everyone who's listening, like that she doesn't like tequila. She's like, I don't like tequila. And then she actually went on to say that the smell of the tequila made her throw up in her mouth a little. Tamla then tells Jean, like, no, you don't understand. It's actually really good. Like, you have to try it. This is different. It's not like the normal tequila you try. But once again, Jean just denies. She's like, no, thank you. I don't want it. And then passes it around like to see if anybody else wants the tequila. And everyone is like smelling it. They're like, ew, how does anyone drink this? Ew, oh my God. And I was just like, oh my God, these people are so fucking rude. It was a gift, bitch. Shut the fuck up. You say thank you, and then you set it down. These are grown-ass women. They know better. And they're from the South. So I was like, where's the Southern hospitality, huh? So yeah, nice friends, aren't they? So Jean tells Tamla, like, this is all yours. You can have it. And Tamla is like, I'm going to drink it because I don't want it to go to waste. That was her drink of choice that night. It was said that Tamla was like mixing the tequila with Mountain Dew. That's how she's drinking it. And according to the other guests, she was really the only person who touched the tequila all night. There were later police interviews where 2 other guests said they tried a bit of the tequila, but that for the most part, Tamla was the one drinking the tequila. So during the party, it was said that occasionally Tamla would go out on that patio deck area outside the living room and like have a cigarette. And one of the other party guests and one of Jean's good friends, Bridget, said that either she would go outside with her to smoke or like someone else would go out with her to smoke. Like she was never left alone out there to smoke by herself. Again, at some point during the night, like the timeline is very unclear here. Everybody that got interviewed literally gives different timelines, things that happened. But what we do know is that at some point, Tamla like pulls out a little bit of weed she had brought and she rolled a blunt, sat on the back patio with the aunt Madeline, and the 2 of them sat back there for a bit, smoked, whatever. And then Jean came outside a little upset because her boyfriend Jose, he worked as a pretrial release services officer with Forsyth County Superior Court. And she was upset, like, he can get in trouble for being around controlled substances. So she asked Tamla and Madeline to, like, please not smoke. I think she said it a little bit more aggressively, but it was said in return that, like, Tamla was very apologetic and completely understood. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I wasn't even thinking, And then she put it out and like didn't bring the weed out again. In the police interview that Jean had with the police, she said she went out on the back deck thing and was like, oh my God, Tam, you're like the female Bob Marley. Just like a stupid, ignorant fucking thing to say, but okay. So, they go back inside. Everyone continues drinking and watching the game. And by 10:30 p.m., 2 of the guests, they leave. But by the sounds of it, they really didn't even plan on staying for the slumber party or anything. Like they had childcare or pet care needs. So these 2, they said their goodbyes and then they head out. I'm starting to think the whole smoking thing probably happened after this. Anyways, it doesn't matter. According to Jean, she said around 12 a.m., everyone, guys included, sat around the living room table and played Cards Against Humanity. If you don't know, it's a card game. You laugh, you giggle, you cry. It's funny. And that the game had continued for like about an hour, right up until the whole game kind of stops because Tamla takes a FaceTime call from her husband and kids. And one of the other attendees films this situation on their phone. And in this 14-second clip, you can hear people like cheerfully encouraging Tamla to wrap up the call and take her turn. And others seem just like legit frustrated with her. They're shouting like, is she gonna read it?
Let me know. Yeah, let me know what
She gonna read it?
Alright, read a black card, girl.
And it's like, calm your tits. It's a freaking game. Relax. The time is unclear when this part has taken place. It might have been before the Cards of Humanity started, which would actually make sense because there's like that gap. But at some point, again, there were a few of them on the back patio area trying to get the fire pit lit, but it wasn't lighting. Yeah, this back patio area was pretty big and like they had a lot of outdoor furniture back there, like a little hangout spot and a fire pit. So they're trying to get it lit because it's cold that night and they thought it'd be fun to have a little fire, but nothing's happening. According to Jean, she said that Tamla stepped in and tried to switch out the propane tank. Like she was trying to help, right? But Jean Just sounds like I'm saying John. John, at one point, she's like, I could smell gas. So I was like, nope, and went back inside. I guess they couldn't get the fire pit lit and eventually, like, gave up on that idea. So, the night is coming to an end. People are cleaning up and getting ready for bed. Jean said that Tamla wanted to stay up. She wanted everyone to stay up. That she was very social and kept wanting to just hang. Tamla was like, I never get time with the girls, let's stay up, let's live a little, let's have some fun. And like, on top of that, she was drinking Mountain Dew. So that kind of like makes sense, right? Like, Mountain Dew gives you energy. But Jean was like, I wake up. Sorry, I keep doing these accents because they just get me. Gotta drop it. Drop it! Jean was like, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. Like, I can't stay up. I'm dead. And at some point, Tam tells Jean and one of the other guests, Stacy and her husband Tom, two of the other guests, I should say, Stacy and her husband Tom, she told them that she was thinking about going home, She's like, I just want to go home, I think. And Jean said, like, no. And then the other two chimed in saying, absolutely not. Like, promise us you won't drive, because she had been drinking a lot. Like, she made a big dent in the bottle of tequila. They're like, hell no, you're not driving. They didn't want her out there being stupid. In a later interview, Jean would say it was actually kind of confusing for her because Tam didn't appear drunk at all. She was like her same old happy self, hugging people, having a conversation, clear and straight. Like, she wasn't on her ass like you would expect someone who was like really drank a lot would be, So she almost was like, maybe I should say yes to let her go because she doesn't seem drunk. But they asked her to not drive and just to stay. And that Tamla, respected what they said. Please don't drive home. And she was like, okay, I won't. But while everyone is brushing their teeth, laying down, going to sleep, Tam stays in the kitchen area with the girl Bridget and has a bowl of gumbo. While they're in the kitchen or just downstairs at some point, Bridget calls her husband to come and pick her up. I guess she had had enough with one of the friends that was there. Her name was Jen, and I'll talk about it later. But Bridget was annoyed with this Jen lady, and she's like, I just want to go home. But Tam would say at this point, she was very affectionate, giving Bridget a hug and kiss. And when it was time for her to leave, Bridget said that Tam walked her to the front door, hugged her, and said goodbye. But Bridget's husband, though, he would say that when Bridget came to the door, Tam was not with her. He was pretty insistent about this. Tam wasn't there. It was just Bridget. Okay, so the next morning, well, it's about 4 in the morning, and one of the ladies that slept over got up and left because she had to go to work, And then following that, it's everybody else from the party seemed to trickle out. But at this time, it was said, when they were leaving, none of them saw or interacted with Tam. So about 8:45 a.m., according to Madeline, the aunt who lives in the basement, she gets up and starts her morning routine. She was in her kitchen area in the basement, standing, making her coffee. And as a habit, she looks out the door window to see, what kind of day is it today? Is it raining out? Whatever. And that's when she noticed Tam in the backyard laying face down on the grass. Now, she said she knew it was her because of the pajamas she was wearing. And she was thinking, this is so weird. Why is she laying on the grass? So according to her, she runs up to Jean and Jose's bedroom. She knocks on the door. And I guess nobody hears her at first. So she runs back downstairs to the basement to look out the window again, thinking that maybe Tam had gotten up and moved. Maybe she was meditating. But instead, when she looked, she was still in the same position. So she ran back upstairs and knocked on the couple's door again. Someone said, come in. And Madeline said, right away. I need to talk to Jose. Jean said, based off her voice and her face, she could tell that something was seriously wrong. And that's when Madeline said, this is a quote, your friend from the islands is in the backyard laying on the grass. Okay, all right. Okay, so Jose pulled on his shorts, went downstairs, telling Jean to grab her phone. That's when they go outside down those stairs and they find Tam, according to Jean, laying face down on the grass, almost like she had just face planted. Her toes were perfectly pointed towards the house. Her legs were like together, perfectly pointed. And her hands were down by her side, palms facing up. Jean said she remembers this because like the image was burned into her head because of like how surreal the whole situation was. So Jean immediately calls 911. The 911 call is placed at 8:59 a.m., which is 15 minutes after Madeline first found Tam. There are some theories as to what happened from from when Madeline finds her to like when the 911 call happens. But honestly, if she was running up and down those stairs, I'd believe it. I'm going to mention that part towards the end, the theories, so we don't like get everything confused. Let me get this thick liner on. I'll be right back. I knew today, I was like, I want a thick black liner look. So that's what I went for. So Jean is the one who makes the initial 911 call. And instantly, she asks for police and ambulance. Then Jean tells the dispatcher what happened that night. You know, the rundown. She had people over, they were drinking, most of them went to bed. One of them stayed up on the balcony to smoke. She was drinking. They came outside to see her laying face down. Then she said, quote, I guess it looks like she fell off the balcony. Do you like my accent? I don't know why I'm like gripping this like a child. She jumped off the balcony, but she goes on to say like she's stiff. The dispatcher asked, is she breathing? But Jean said she didn't know because Tam was face down. Now this in itself is odd, right? Because if this is your friend and they are laying face down in the backyard and appear to like maybe be hurt or something, wouldn't your first instinct to like flip them over, maybe like slap their face a little and be like, wake up, like, are you okay? Are you okay? But nothing. They just left her as is. Then Jean hands the phone over to her boyfriend, Jose. When Jose gets on the phone, he tells the dispatcher, hey, this is Jose. And the dispatcher seems to know who he is. Like, it seems like they know each other. Because she's like, hey, Jose. It just sounds like they recognize each other. Jose tells the dispatcher that she's not moving one bit. She's not breathing. She's stiff. Once again, the dispatcher asks, is she breathing? Like, have you checked to see if she's breathing? Then the call breaks off. At least the 911 call I listened to completely breaks off. It goes silent. As if he said something that they didn't want the public to hear. So when they released the 911 call, like they cut it out. Suspicious. Because then it picks back up to Jose mid-sentence talking about her having a small amount of blood on her sleeve. Then the dispatcher asked Jose, like, do you know who it is? And Jose said, I think her name is Tam or something like that. And that he had only met her one other time. It was like, dude, weren't you just spending the whole like night with all these people? Like, okay. But he's playing stupid. Still, at this point, nobody had checked to see if Tam was breathing. They just left her as is. But Jose, on the phone, again gives the theory to the dispatcher. I think maybe she fell off the balcony. He mentions on the call that the balcony was about 20 feet from the ground and that the railing on the balcony was about 4 feet high. Kind of a weird thing to mention. Maybe it's not, but I was like, weird. Why is he mentioning this? Like, okay, whatever. Jose then on the call goes to say that they actually have security camera on the back deck and that they could check to see what happened. And he then mentioned that Tam had a small cut on her wrist that might have been self-inflicted. This was a part that I found later on, not in the 911 call. And I think this is the part that was maybe cut out of the 911 call I listened to when it went silent. Do you know what I'm saying? Because he was suggesting that she may have like cut her wrists, like, you know, like as if she wanted to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Pretty much as soon as the call ends, the police arrive. It's like within 8 minutes from the 911 call. They check out the scene and they find that Tam's body is not quite exactly how Jose and Jean described it. The main thing that was different was that Tam's left arm was like bent out to the side in a wide V shape, or bent at an obtuse angle at the elbow, placing the hand away from the body with her palm facing the grass and her fingers curled in. It was not straight down with like the palms up like they initially said. I kind of think of the description of her body being like Superman style, initially how it was described, like palms up, feet perfectly pointed, like you sound stupid, but like are flying, you know? But when police got there, it was not like that. Her hand was up. Yeah, you get it. Now, her hand being up and stuff would make sense if Jose had followed instructions and took Tam's pulse. Like if he had to like pick up her arm to get to her wrist and then set it back down, you know? But Jose said in every interview he did that he never checked her pulse or moved her body. Not once, he said it. And he was very adamant about that. And same with Jean. Weirdly, he does admit that in order to see if Tamla was alive, he tried to lift Tam's leg and then he tried to bend it to see if she's alive, but that the leg was stiff and that rigor mortis had set in. This is a side note, but who in the hell lifts the leg first to check if someone is alive? I think we could think of numerous ways to check if someone is alive. Like, wouldn't you flip them over? Wouldn't you flip them over? Wouldn't you flip them over, check for a pulse? Why the leg? That's what he said, though. Sure. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to save my thoughts and stuff until the end. Let me not. So police noticed that her left arm was up and moved. The police also noticed that her right arm was extended down the side of her body, palms down on the grass, not up like they were described. Now, her wrist bone was actually visible poking through the skin, and there was some blood on her sleeve, but it was just a little drop. It was way less than you'd expect, given how badly the bone was broken. So, but here is also another thing. On the crime scene photos of her right hand, there are imprints of grass on the top of her hand. Like her hand had been resting palm up on the grass for a while. Like there were grass imprints. There were also specks of grass left behind on top of her hand in the crime scene photos. So like it appears that her hand was definitely palm up, but at some point it was moved and like nobody has come forward and said that they moved it. It's just straight up bizarre. Jean and Jose were insistent that they did not move her body, that when they found her, that her hands were down by her side with her palms up. And again, they stuck by this throughout all of the interviews. It's just like so fucking bizarre, like because it's obvious someone moved her hands, arms, and it's such a weird thing for anyone to lie about, right? So I guess a ghost did it. Okay. Now, at this time, there were no other obvious injuries. Okay, another odd thing was that no ambulance ever showed up to the scene. On the 911 call, you know, at the very beginning, Jean was like, I need an ambulance and police, gave the address, blah, blah, blah. And usually, the ambulance will show up like around the same time as police. They're very quick. But they never did. And it was said at some point the police called off the emergency medical services and told them that they were not needed. But it's very unclear when this conversation happened, but it must have happened very quickly. And this also has drawn a lot of criticism. Like it looked like Jean, Jose, and the police were not interested in getting Tamla potentially life-saving help in a timely manner, right? It just seemed like that there was a huge lack of urgency. They literally left her lying face down on the grass. So police declared Tamla dead, and they arranged to have her body transported to the coroner's office. Never an attempt to resuscitate her or roll her fucking over or something, right? What the fuck? Well, there's lots of odd things throughout this case, and you will notice. So, another thing, there were officers on the scene who were also personal friends with Jose. One of them even talks about it at the crime scene, and his comments were recorded on his body cam. He says, quote, "I know Jose very well. I've worked with him for quite a while." And another officer's wife had worked for the same company as one of Jean's friends who was at the party. This friend had come back this morning to give a statement, and she was like worried that she was going to be late for work. And the officer joked about how she would be fine if she was late because he would be able to smooth everything out with his wife, or through his wife, I should say. They all seemed to be very friendly with each other, have each other's back. Like the police officer's Jose. Okay. Police jump right into treating Jean's house like a potential crime scene, but honestly, not really. They go inside the house, they use the crime scene tape to block off the living room, and they note Tam's overnight bag behind the living room couch with her jacket placed on top of it. And it seems that's the only thing they got, or they noted, at the crime scene. They're like, "Great police work, everyone. High five. We got it." Yeah. It's like, all right. Well, the police do want to talk to witnesses, everyone who was at the party. So they asked Jean to call everyone. And they ask her to tell them, to come back and give a statement. They also tell Jean not to tell anyone the real reason they need to talk to the police. They don't want Jean to influence anyone. In other words, don't tell anyone Tamla's dead. So she just tells the other women that Tam was in a bad accident that they're dealing with, and that's about it. And everyone does return to the house to give a statement. During the investigation, they asked Jean about the security cameras to see if they could get the footage, right? It was on the back patio. Great, let's get it. But surprise, surprise, Jean told them that her security camera batteries were dead. Oh, what a bummer. That always seems to happen, doesn't it? But you know what she did have? She was able to provide the police with her security system notifications. I'll tell you what that is. Here I go. At Jean's house, she has those sensors on all of her doors that would note which door opened at what time. And then it would send a notification to Jean's phone. Back door opened at 12 p.m. Back door closed at 12:01. That. So Jean was like, I have this. And instead of sharing or getting all of the details, she just shares a screenshot of the notifications from her phone. But that screenshot started at 1:40 a.m., so there's no record of anything before that. But police thought, this is great, this is enough. So I'll tell you, here's what the screenshot said. Garage door opened at 1:40 a.m., never closed after that. Side note, garage door meaning the door from the house to the garage, not the physical car garage part that opens, the one in the house. Okay? Front door opened at 1:47 a.m., closed 1:47 a.m. This was explained as one of the guests, Bridget, leaving that night. Back door opened 1:49 a.m., closed 1:50 a.m. Jean said that this must have been Tamla stepping outside for a smoke before heading to bed. Back door opened at 1:57 a.m., doesn't close after that. Jean said that maybe this was Tam again, and maybe she didn't close the door behind her. Then nothing, no doors go off, nothing, everyone's sleeping, until the next morning. Front door opened at 4:10 a.m. This was explained as one of the guests leaving early for work. And then that was it. That was all Jean gave to the police. We'll circle back because I built a timeline off of this as to what I think happened. Police leave for the day, whatever. So a few days later, investigators, they come back over to Jean's house for, to ask more questions. When they get there, she's there with some gifts. It was Dunkin' Donuts gift cards that she had picked up for the officers. Now there's a recording of this police interview. And in the beginning, he says something along the lines of like, thank you for the gift cards, but we can't accept them because it would look bad if we did. And Jean is kind of like, oh, okay. When this police interview became public, obviously this whole Dunkin' Donuts thing did not look good, right? Jean didn't help the situation because she went to Facebook and she posted a photo of her and two friends wearing face masks with the Dunkin' Donuts logo printed on the front of the mask. Her and her three friends. Facebook. The caption said, oh, I look scary. That's not what the caption said. Sorry. The caption said, the best masks ever. If you know, you know. Girl, what are you doing? Come on, get it together. What are you doing? What are you doing? Jean was like in all of her interviews, she's like, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. And she was so upset, whatever. And then she posts stuff like this. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you fucking doing? You want people to think that you're innocent? You don't fucking do that. Dumbass. So, now what? I know. So if that wasn't bad enough, all these officers report to a new sheriff in town. I'm a new sheriff in town. His name was Ron Freeman. So Ron, before he took this position, he got fired for mishandling a case against another officer. And this other officer had been accused of being racist as hell. Basically, one of Ron's officers, a guy named Chris Shelton, said some racist stuff online. I also, in person. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I breathed in all that. Chris got fired for this. Then afterward, Sheriff Ron went into Chris's personnel records and tampered with them. Nay, you can't do that. So Ron got fired. Just like Chris. They both got fired. And afterward, Ron and Chris both went on to get positions in Forsyth County because they get fired, but whatever, they just find a new job in a different county and nothing applies. So I think it's safe to say that there's like a lot of red flags going on here. There was also another officer working on this case. He too posted racist stuff on Snapchat. He actually had like 2 girlfriends and he would communicate with them through Snapchat, and he got caught like fucking them in his police car while on the clock when he was supposed to be like serving and protecting or whatever the fuck. He had he shared photos of Tam's body with one of the girls he was seeing and was like giving her all this like information that he shouldn't have been giving her. He referred to her as the quote porch lady. Fucking shit show. And I'll talk about this more a little bit at the end because there's more. Another thing that was alarming was that police never requested data from any of Jean's friends' phones, like the people who were at the party. A bunch of people who were at the party said that they took photos and videos throughout the night. You'd think maybe they'd gather all this, check everyone's phones to see if anything weird was going on, but they didn't. Instead, they were mainly focused on witness testimonies only, and that backfired because pretty much all of them were inconsistent. So I'm not going to go through all of them, and I mainly focus on Bridget's statements because I think that bitch was involved. I'm just saying that now. That's my personal opinion. So Madeline, remember the aunt that lived downstairs? She gave a statement, right? Please come back and ask her for information again. And there were inconsistencies in her situation. Remember, Madeline was the aunt that lived in the basement who found Tamla's body first. She originally said she woke up, made her coffee, whatever, looked out the window, ran upstairs, that whole story. But then there was another version where Madeline said she woke up, she actually went outside to feel the weather. What kind of day is it today? That's when she saw Tam. And said something like, hey. Then she ran back inside, washed her face because she thought she was saying things, And then she got on her knees and she prayed. Then she said she went upstairs, knocked on Jean and Jose's bedroom, and asked for Jose specifically. Then they go on to find Tam, etc., etc. Okay, so police interviews, right? We're still on police interviews. Don't worry, we're getting to everything. Probably like what happened to Tam. I'm going to tell you. Let's talk about Bridget, because Bridget is a very interesting person. I listened to her many interviews, and she is a talker. Bridget is allegedly a close friend to Jean and some of the other women who were at the party that night. In my personal opinion, I think these friends keep her around because she has the Xanax. Bridget, in her interviews, was very open about taking her Xanax. She said it was very precious to her because she has a bad anxiety problem. And I'm not making fun of you if you take Xanax or anything. It's just this woman is out there. Her Xanax was so precious to her that she even carried the pills around with her in a necklace that she wore all the time. Have you seen the movie Cruel Intentions? It's giving that. Like, I bet this bitch watched Cruel Intentions and it was heavily inspired. And if you see a picture of Bridget, she looks like she would be a fan of Cruel Intentions. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. But she wears a Xanax and a necklace. But there are rumors saying that she doesn't just take the Xanax herself. She actually shares her pills with her friends. Oh, yeah. Bridget denied this. No, I never would do that. Like, she's a lot. So she denied. She does not share her Xanax. After the police do a little bit more digging, they uncover more and more evidence that Bridget had indeed been giving out Xanax that night of the party. And actually, even the next day. So police put more pressure on Bridget to come clean. They're like, we actually saw the text messages where you were offering pills to some of the ladies. And I love these moments when they get caught in a lie because they just go silent and try and come up with something really quick. And she was like, okay, yeah, I did share pills with one of the women at Jean's house. And after the party, because this friend was on the verge of a mental breakdown. But it wasn't Tam. It was not Tam that I gave Xanax to. And she was super adamant about that. She did not give any drugs to Tamla. She kept saying it. During the interview, they didn't even ask that. She just came out like, I didn't give Tamla any. They're like, okay. Then Bridget does another police interview. And this one was real questionable to me. And this one kept me up at night. I was like, girl, she's a fucking mess. So the police interview starts with the officer asking her, tell me from the beginning what happened that night. Bridget starts by telling the officer that everyone loves her because she's great with kids and that she works as a babysitter for all of her friends because they just love her and they think she is so incredible, that she is the mother hen of the group. And then she goes on to say that she's the best friend everyone would want around because she's always cleaning up around the house, just cleaning in general because she's, quote, OCD about that kind of stuff, end quote. You know those people who clean, like to organize, and they're like, I'm so OCD. And you're like, no, you're just tidy, you know?
Tam was very appreciative. I can't tell you how many times that woman grabbed me and goes, I love you. You're incredible. Can we take you home for a while? Because I'm a neat freak too.
Yeah.
I mean, my OCD, I'm a super neat freak. I'm that perfect friend. I mean, I'm not boasting or anything, but I'm that perfect friend you want to be there at a party.
Again, the police asked her to start from that night. Nobody asked her this. Then Bridget goes on this long ramble about how she's not very trusting of grown-ups, that she loves children, but not so much adults. With that being said, she didn't want to spend the night at Jean's house because she didn't feel comfortable around people she didn't trust. She said, if she did sleep over that night, she'd be sleeping with one eye open because she doesn't trust anyone.
I don't sleep at strange people's houses. I will stay up all night long. You know, that whole sleeping with one eye open thing.
Sure, you're just not comfortable.
I have trust issues.
I mean, according to Bridget, these were her close friends, so a little weird thing to say. Bridget then goes on to say that Tamla was so loving and fun that night, giving hugs and even at one point jumped on her lap and grabbed her boobs. And she followed that with, this is a direct quote,
"My DNA will be all over them jammies."
Now, isn't that such a weird thing to say? Her DNA will be all over those jammies? That's weird. Then she said that everyone went to bed and it was just her and Tam in the kitchen. Tam was eating gumbo and she seemed perfectly fine. Didn't seem drunk at all. Bridget said that she was talking to Tam about how sick she was of Jen. This was a girl, another party guest. I guess Jen was just driving her nuts. She told Tam that Jen's just too needy and how annoying she was and how Jen was going on and on that night about how nobody liked her and it was so annoying. Again, it was like, so what happened that night? like, okay. Bridget said, while in the kitchen, Tam mentioned to her that she too was thinking about going home. Because remember, Bridget wanted to go home. She called her husband to go home. So Tam had mentioned to her, like, I'm thinking about going home. And then Bridget said that she was the one who told Tam not to go because she had been drinking and instead she needed to just stay at the house, relax for a few hours, lay on the couch and to let her body mend before trying to leave. That there was no reason to do anything stupid. That's what Bridget said. Now, Jean's statement, she said that this conversation with Tam did happen. Don't drive. But Bridget wasn't there. Are you taking notes? Because I hope so. You're going to need it. Bridget then goes on to say that Tam was a seasoned drinker, that she could spot it, but she wasn't like sloppy or on her ass like their friend Jen. She talks about like Jen again being super negative. Jen, she sucks. And to me, this is a side note, she seems like she's looking to like point the finger at someone else. That's what I was gathering. Bridget goes on to say that she called her husband to pick her up, and when he arrived, Tamla walked her to the front door, gave her big hugs, gave her a kiss on the cheek. Then Tam told her, quote, I just really love you. And that she, Bridget, responded to Tam by saying in a sweet, like, church lady voice, No, you just love the things I do. I'm the mother hen. And then that Tam responded to that and said, No, you're just a good person. And Bridget said, Thank you. Now take yourself in the house and finish your gumbo. This is what she's telling the officer happened. Like that was the conversation between them. Again, my own opinion here. It sounded like she was trying really hard to prove to this policeman that like, see? Everyone loves me so much. Even Tam loved me. She was kissing me and telling me how much she loved me. Bridget said she then left, hopped in the car with her husband, and they took off. And this happened around 1:45 in the morning. Bridget's husband, like I mentioned earlier, said that it was just Bridget he saw. That Tam was not with her. Bridget swears. Bridget said in another interview that the Xanax she takes makes it impossible for her to lie. So she's not lying because the Xanax makes it impossible for her to lie. She's like, I can't lie. I was like, okay, girl, shut up. Then, without police asking, she goes on to state what happened at Jean's house next, even though she just said she left at 1:45. In the interview, she says that she's like, at 1:55 or so, I gotta stop the accent. It's just so... She said that at 1:55 or so, Tam walked out onto the back deck to have a cigarette, and that the back door opened, but never shut. That there was a cigarette and a lighter left on the back porch that hadn't been smoked. This is when the officer cuts in, kind of stops her and says, like, who told you this? And Bridget starts to say, this is a quote, Jose had meant... She stops herself and then continues. I did pick up the lighter. She stops herself. What happened was that he picked up the cigarette and light and put it on the fireplace. The fuck are you talking? Huh? Then she went on to describe exactly how Tam's body was positioned when she was found. even though Bridget was long gone by the time anyone saw Tamla's body. She even went on to say that she thinks she might have an idea of how Tam fell. She suggested that Tam may have climbed on top of the propane tank that was on the balcony, then jumped off of it on purpose. Saying, quote, there was a gas propane tank sitting there, and what possessed her to use it as a step stool, she had no idea. End quote. What? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Now, this is the part that drove me nuts, because unfortunately, the officer who's questioning her stops her from perhaps incriminating herself and tells her, like, I need you to tell me what you did, not what you heard.
What would have possessed her to use that as a step stool? I have no idea.
Okay. Let me redirect you because
I'm getting off topic.
I need what you know, what you did, not what you heard.
It's like, no. Let her keep going. She's obviously saying too much. Anyways, so he's like trying to get her back on track. Then she said to the investigator, referring to herself, quote, you're going to tell people I never want to talk to her again. She still doesn't have her story straight. Kind of being like jokey about it. And then she ended it with, quote, I will do my best to be as respectful as I can, but I damn sure am not gonna say I did something that I didn't do. I'm a pretty clean person outside of some speeding tickets. End quote. Huh? The officer who was interviewing her ends it at this point and does not ask further questions. He just cuts it off. In my personal opinion, when listening to this interview, Bridget sounded like she was on some of that, Zanny. And like the police guy was just over it. Like he got what he needed and then he just got the hell out of there. And it's unfortunate because you heard what I just said. Maybe if he would have pushed a little bit harder and asked like, how do you know the timeline of Tam's night? When she left, and maybe dug a little bit deeper on this whole jumping off the gas propane tank story. Like, hello? Keep Bridget in your mind because you will see why. We are not there yet. Anywho, so that really stuck out to me. Great. I'm sure you can agree why it stands out. So Jose, he also gets questioned. Jose's the boyfriend, remember? He's very questionable. Not only did he work within the sheriff's department, he had many friends within. He had many friends. And one of them was the lead investigator of this case. His name was Andy Callan, Andy, supervisor over the investigation. Many believe the morning Tamla's body was found, before dialing 911, Jose made a phone call to Andy asking what to do or like giving him the story first and again what to do. Both of them have denied that this call took place, and because everyone is friendly with Jose, nobody asked for phone records or dug deeper into this. Okay, which I think we can agree they should have. Many believe that Andy was biased, right? Yeah, and did not handle the case as he should have. I know, it's just like, what in the cover-up is happening? Well, in the interviews with Jose, he's very, like, matter of fact and doesn't have loose lips like some others. One of Tamla's friends, her name is Michelle Graves, she was pushing hard looking for answers as to, like, what happened to my friend? She wanted answers. What happened? And this seemed to be upsetting Jose. So at work, he used his power to access the official police records of the investigation, which is not his job. And when he did that, he also looked up Michelle's personal information. Also, not his job. Like, he looked up her address and stuff. What he did with it, we don't know. But many of the people who were speaking out, asking for more answers surrounding Tamla's case, said that they were being harassed afterwards. So, Of course, like, Jose didn't admit to any of this. He's just a big denier and kept his story straight the entire time. Like, he was good at that. And in my opinion, I feel like he was because he works with law enforcement. Like, he knows how it goes. He would be the guy who would be able to, like, keep the fucking story straight. Jose ended up getting caught for looking up the records as well as Michelle's information. And he did get fired for violating the law, which is great. But, you know, it doesn't give us answers, which fucking sucks. Personally, I think Jose was the ringleader. When neighbors were questioned after Tamla's death, some reported that that same week as the party, everyone from the party was over at Jean and Jose's place like every day. Many believe they were all there because they were trying to all get their story straight. I believe that they were trying to get their story straight from Jose because, again, he works in law enforcement. If you're going to look for guidance on what to say and what to do, it would be the guy who works with the sheriff's department. You know? Also, when you think about it, he took charge of the 911 call. To me, it's him giving information to keep the story straight from the beginning. I mean, he would know how to keep things in line, in my opinion. Okay, so interviews, whatever. Autopsy. We haven't gotten to the autopsy. Get out your notepad. Okay, so Tam's official autopsy, which was done by, what are their names? The GBI. This is the one that the police had put out to the public, okay? And on this autopsy report, it said there were blunt force injuries of the head and neck. There was a faint, superficial abrasion on the right side of the forehead. There was an abrasion on the left upper eyelid, an abrasion on the bridge of the nose, an abrasion on the right temple, another abrasion on the left side of the chin, a linear cut on the right side of her heart internally. Her right wrist was dislocated with a cut on the right wrist. There was a superficial cut on the inside of the left forearm, a cut on the tip of the left index finger, a cut on the right lower leg, another cut on the lower left leg. There was a transparent fluid coming from the nose and mouth, and in her stomach, she had 300 milliliters of partially digested food, period. That's that. But this got me thinking, specifically the food. Shouldn't this help them find a time of death? The food. Thinking of the Jean-Benet Ramsey case and the pineapple in her stomach, remember? It helped determine the time of death. So on her official death certificate, the time of death was listed as 10:45 a.m., but there's another section that says time of injury, and that is listed as 1:30 a.m. Time of injury means like a time where she occurred these injuries, but it's not necessarily like the time of death. From my understanding, that's what it means. I feel like if they could actually figure out her time of death, if they actually tried, this could potentially throw off everyone's timeline and really uncover some truths, right? But of course they didn't. Because why would they? So the toxicology. You ready? The toxicology report said that she had a high blood alcohol content, which was around 0.23 BAC, blood alcohol content. That she had THC in her system. And get this, Xanax was in her system. Interesting. Very interesting. They concluded that this death was an accident as a result from a fall consistent with the height of the deck and railing to the ground below. Now, another odd detail. Usually during a postmortem, the medical examiner will take a lot of photos as like evidence of like the scratches, the cuts, everything. They know everything. But this time around, of course they didn't. Only 5 photos were taken, and there was no explanation as to why this was. It just seemed that this was one more instance where nobody was taking Tamla's case seriously. Now, I know some of you are rolling your eyes like, but like, whatever, like, this is what they came up with. Like, what's the problem? I'm going to tell you. Hold on. Okay, so Tamla's family, obviously, haven't even touched on that, completely shocked, devastated, heartbroken. Ugh, I couldn't imagine. She had so many boys, and like, this was a major loss. They said that she was not the sort of person to get messy drunk. She had a high tolerance for alcohol, and it was pretty unlikely that she had like gotten wasted on accident. I mean, to get this drunk, she would have to be knocking back shot after shot, which was said she would never do at a party full of people that she didn't know very well. She's an adult, right? Like, this is something immature kids do. Get sloppy drunk, whatever. Her family would say that Tamla felt uncomfortable getting drunk around people she did not know that well. She also did not take pills for fun. She was not one to like take pills. She didn't have a prescription of Xanax, so it's not like it was hers. So no one could explain why she would have Xanax in her system. And the family was asking questions, as they should, because none of this was making sense to them. She jumped from a balcony? What? Her family insists that there was something more to the story. They believe that there was foul play, and they demanded a second autopsy be done. And guess what? They got a second autopsy done, and this one had different results that contradicted the sheriff's department's findings. So the family had the second autopsy performed, and here is what they came up with. Take notes again. There was no evidence of significant traumatic injuries to the skull bones, base of the skull, or the cervical vertebrae. The things that would appear if you jumped from a fucking balcony. Her wrist wasn't dislocated like originally stated. It was actually broken. I mean, even in the crime scene images, the wrist is clearly broken, so why they originally said it was dislocated just completely discredits like fucking everything. The bone was popping out. Multiple cuts on the left wrist, parallel linear cuts on the right upper arm. She also had an impacted nasal septal fracture. Her nose was broken, like if you hit it upwards. Broken. A scrape on the right frontal scalp. A faint bruise on the left frontal scalp. Red bruises on the upper left and right eyelid. Also bruises on her upper nasal bridge and on the left side of her chin. Linear cut on the left big toe. A cut on the lower... I'm not laughing at this. I'm just thinking about this drawing. I did a drawing to like help me. It's so sad. Don't laugh at me. I'm trying really hard because I was like, this is hard. A cut on the lower third of the right thigh. Linear cut on the upper 1/3 of the left thigh. And a horizontal cut on the upper third of the left leg. So what essentially they're saying is she had a, according to this very accurate drawing, what they're saying is she had a lot of cuts, scrapes, bruises, broken nose, broken wrist, right? So the examiner goes on to say that the absence of blood around the broken wrist is because the break most likely happened near the time of death or after the death. Like, once you die, your blood becomes very sluggish, plus the alcohol, the weed, the Xanax would make the blood just kind of very sluggish. So all of that, that's why there's literally just a drop, like it's wild. He then went on to say that the absence of bleeding and the absence of like lacerations of the scalp does not line up with the cause of death being falling from a second story of a building, period. Police, like, they have to come out and like make a statement or whatever, a cause of death, whatever, So their theory was that on the very early morning of November 5th, 2018, Tam went out onto the balcony to smoke. Then she either slipped or jumped off of the balcony and hit the ground hard enough to kill her. Jumped or slipped. Sure. They don't try to explain why or how Tam's body got moved. based off of that initial 911 call, right? And the police interviews. They also don't bother to speculate on why she got so uncharacteristically drunk. Or they don't even try to explain how she got her hands on Xanax. Which I'm sure we all can guess who provided that. So another theory that police had come up with was that Tamla had tripped. She tripped. Yeah, this is some great fucking police work if I ever saw it. Tamla's body was found like right on this grassy area, and by her was like a little divider that separated the grass from the mulch on Jean's lawn. The initial investigators speculated that Tam might have like tripped over the divider, which they believed would explain like the cuts she had on her shins. But this literally made zero sense to anybody with a brain. The divider itself is so tiny. If she did trip over it, her legs wouldn't even touch that divider and get scratched. Plus, it doesn't explain how her body was positioned. It doesn't explain anything. I think they were just looking for an answer. And they're like, she tripped. She tripped. Yeah? Basically, no one's entirely sure how it happened. But again, Tamla's relatives are convinced that someone did something that got her killed. But the case was closed after this. Tamla's family, they haven't been the only people who think this whole situation is suspicious. When the Black Lives Matter protests took off in 2020, Tamla's case was brought back into the conversation. Like pretty soon, tons of people online were posting about her story, talking about her story, and demanding answers. Over 700,000 people signed a change.org petition demanding for another proper investigation be done. Eventually, enough people spoke out that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation reopened Tamla's case in 2020. The problem was that it had now been 2 years since her death. People's memories, not as fresh. People moved. Okay, they got the fuck out of town. The original evidence, like, just didn't exist anymore. I mean, most notably, they were like, there's a lot of people from the party. They got new phones. Things had been deleted. Text, videos, photos were all now gone. They asked Jean for security footage and the door chimes that were recorded on her phone, but they were all gone as well. So just like not much to work with. So this time around, the GBI, they were canvassing Jean's neighborhood, trying to gather like new statements. Maybe someone just didn't have an opportunity to talk, so they're talking to the neighbors. And many of the neighbors, they believe that something happened that night. Some of them went on to say that like Jean and Jose were acting odd afterwards, that Jean seemed to be faking her emotions. They all thought, like all her neighbors thought something was up. The downside, they all thought something was up and no one had evidence of anything. It was all just thoughts and talk. There was one neighbor who said that Jean had told him that she checked her security cameras and found a clip of Tamla's fall on the night of the party. She went on to say that Tamla actually wasn't on the balcony, but she was on the ground level. Honestly, like, I call bullshit. I think you probably do too, because we're not idiots. But like John said, her batteries were dead. They probably weren't, for all we know. But that footage, is long gone. I personally think like she told this neighbor this so people in the area would stop questioning her. Jean had complained that she was sick of all the gossip in the area. It was a small town and she was being targeted, harassed. People thought she was a killer and she like was really frustrated of it. Oh, so sad. And I feel like she told the neighbor this just to like get this person off her back. You know what I'm saying? Like she was sick of people believing this. And she's like, no, actually I found the footage. She wasn't on the balcony. She was on the ground and she fell. Yeah, so all the stuff you heard is actually fake. I mean, I didn't even want to fancy this because it doesn't explain anything. Like Tam, if she fell on the ground level, it doesn't explain all the bruises and cuts. And let's say this was true. Why would Jean lie about the security footage? Like, when she found this footage of Tam, wouldn't she want to hand it over to prove her innocence? Like, oh, like this would be like, see, It wasn't me, you know? You wouldn't delete it. I would save that shit so hard and send and be like, look here. But she didn't because I don't think it's true. Okay, but like none of these questions and answers were pressing enough for the GBI to think that this might have been a homicide. And the GBI released their findings. And once again, they concluded that Tam's death was an accident due to falling/jumping off the balcony. Again, still, many were left with unanswered questions. And to this day, Tamla's family is still demanding answers about how she really died. That's all they want. And to think that they're like not getting these answers because these friends, I don't even want to use the word friends, these stupid ass people are all covering their own asses is infuriating. The last set of findings were so dissatisfying. I mean, it's reasonable to keep demanding a clearer, more believable answer as to what happened to Tamla Horsford that night. My God. So there's so many theories and speculation as to what happened. I'll mention some, at least the ones that I kept seeing over and over and over again, but there are a ton out there. First one, some believe that like this may have been an unfortunate accident. Based off the toxicology report, she had a ton of alcohol in her system, as well as weed and Xanax. If that was the case, many think that she might have fallen from the balcony. If she was too drunk or stoned to react before she hit the grass, that could explain like why her arms were at her side and not breaking her fall. And this theory, I mean, it could be true. Who the fuck knows? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why I don't think so. Because it doesn't explain the scratches all over her body or the broken wrist. Also, if one falls over the balcony, let's just say she fell over the balcony, like you would flip forward over the balcony and not land face down in the grass. If you fell forward, you would either hit directly your head and like feet would be facing the fence, or if you jumped off of the balcony, your arms would be just more out, your head would probably be to the side and not fucking face down in the grass. Like falling off the balcony in that specific position she was in, like perfectly pointed toes towards the house, face down. It just doesn't make sense. And then if it were truly an accident, then why was everyone so weird afterwards and trying to keep their story straight? If there's nothing to lie about, you know, why be concerned with keeping anything straight? Just tell your truth, right? But someone was trying to control the narrative. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not saying like I'm right. I'm just telling you what I was thinking. There's another theory out there that Jose, or maybe one of the other men at the house, came on to her at some point. Maybe she denied, and whoever it was, got angry with her because she denied. And when the autopsies were done, there were no defensive marks to be noted on her body because the way that this whole case has been handled, that's could be why. Like, who even knows if anyone was looking for them? Some say that they didn't check under her fingernails to see if she fought back. And also, like, nobody knows if anyone at the party was checked for, like, scratches and wounds and, like, defensive wounds. In both autopsies, it was noted that her fingernails were checked and they were clean. But again, this case was obviously mishandled. So who the fuck knows, right? And many believe that Tamla was murdered. One motive has been proposed: racial animosity. The argument has been that Jean or one of her white friends objected to having a black woman in the friend group, so they instead like got rid of her by either perhaps spiking her food, maybe her drink. The family did ask to have the tequila bottle tested for poison to see if like someone messed with it or something, but it was never performed. Okay, can I tell you my theory? Okay, so I listened to like many interviews. I read everything I could about this case. You know, I'm not a detective. I'm just a person on YouTube. Hi. So this is all just my personal opinion. But here's what I think. Bridget and Jose were in cahoots, maybe even Madeline. So I am basing this off of the timeline that we do have, which was the doors opening and stuff. Okay, so Bridget said that she left around 1:45 a.m. and said that Tamla walked her to the door, blah, 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 which would make investigators believe that Tamla was alive at the time, right? But let's go with Tamla's death certificate where her time of injury was listed at 1:30 a.m. and also using those door sensors to give us a timeline. Again, that sensor evidence that was handed over started at 1:39 a.m. So we're not sure what happened or like what doors opened and closed before that, right? It's all just based off on everyone's word, and they were all fucking drunk, except for Jose. He was said to not be like drinking. Bridget, who the fuck knows? Okay. So Bridget had mentioned that Tamla was never alone when she went outside to smoke. So I think sometime around 1 a.m., Bridget and Tam were on the back patio together. Tamla had her cigarette and lighter with her because she was going outside to smoke. And Bridget was like coming along too. Tamla mentions to Bridget that she's like wide awake. This is my theory. Reminder. Tamla is like mentioning to Bridget that she's wide awake. She wants to stay up, like girls' night. Come on, let's have fun. Stay up. Or maybe she even mentions that her heart is racing. She's like, oh my God, I'm pounding. Because remember, Tamla was drinking tequila with Mountain Dew, and she had a few drinks, which would equal a lot of Mountain Dew. If you don't know, Mountain Dew gets you fucking going. You are jazzed up, baby. It's got a lot of sugar in it. Okay, so she's drinking that. Plus, Tamla had smoked some weed a little earlier, which can also make your heart race. So maybe she expressed just in conversation to Bridget, like, woo, my heart is pounding, or something like that. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. Bridget, being the lovely mother hen that she is, offers her one of her Xanax pills from her necklace. Bridget's like, here, girl, take this. It'll calm you down and you'll be able to sleep in no time. So Tamla sets her cigarette and her lighter down, then takes the pill. Something happens. Maybe Tamla was like standing too close to those balcony stairs that led to the downstairs. Or maybe there was a push, a nudge from Bridget. Something. Maybe Tamla was feeling dizzy from the Xanax. Again, something that sends Tamla tumbling down those stairs. The patio stairs are wood. They're rough. They're thick. And there's a ton of them. So Tamla's falling. She puts out her hand to catch her fall. It breaks. She hits her head on one of the stairs. It breaks her nose. Boom, boom, hitting her head on the way down. Scrapes her legs, scrapes her arms, scrapes her chin. Eyelids bruised, like nose broken. Did I say that? I think I did. Okay. Tumbling down these stairs. She finally lands at the bottom of the stairs, either unconscious or dead. A quick Google search told me that on average, 12,000 people die a year from falling down the stairs. So it's possible. Time of injury, like on her death certificate, 1:30. So let's say it's 1:30. This shit just happened. Bridget panics. She's panicking. She doesn't want the police to know she gave her the Xanax and potentially be responsible for this. I mean, she doesn't know what to do. So she runs inside looking for Jose. He works with law enforcement, so if anyone knows what to do, it's him. So she's like, fuck, I need Jose. In Jean's police interview, she mentioned that she and Jose went to bed around 1 a.m. Again, it was Jean's birthday. She was drinking a lot. So she's knocked out in a drunken slumber and doesn't notice when Bridget peeks into their room and whispers for Jose. She's like, psst, Jose. Jose. Or maybe even Jose was like outside of the room in the house somewhere. Either way, Bridget gets Jose and tells him something happened. She's panicking. So they go out back. They see Tamla. They don't call the police because Jose works in law enforcement. And if there's foul play at his house, potentially drugs involved, I mean, that's not a good look. He doesn't want to lose his job. So maybe he asked what happened. Bridget tells him And maybe they quickly come up with the story then. She jumped off the balcony. She fell off the balcony. Great. Now this is when the door sensor evidence starts. Follow me. Jose or Bridget, one of them runs to the garage door to grab something, right? And remember, it's the garage door that is from the house to the garage. It's that door. The garage door sensor notes door opened at 1:39 a.m. He or she grabs something. Garage door sensor notes door closed at 1:40 a.m. Boom, closed. Whoever it is was like, shit, I forgot something. Reopens the garage door at 1:40 a.m. Grabs whatever and doesn't close the door behind them because panic. That's the last thing you're thinking about, right? You're just panicking. Remember, it was noted that the garage door did not close for the rest of the night. They're doing something. Maybe this is the point when they're coming up with their story. I was thinking in the garage, maybe they're getting gloves, maybe something to kind of clean up, just something from the garage. But then it's now around 1:40, 1:45-ish. Bridget's husband arrives to pick her up. He texts her like, hey, I'm here, I'm outside. And Bridget's inside like, oh, fuck. My husband's here to pick me up. Jose tells her to go. He's like, go, I'll handle the rest. Front door sensor opens, 1:47 a.m. Bridget leaves. Door is closed behind her at 1:47 a.m. This is why in Bridget's police interview, she made it clear that Tamla was with her, walked her to the door, bleep, blop, bloop, to make sure police believed that Tamla was still alive at this point. But really, she wasn't, in my theory. Jose, now alone, he maybe goes back into the garage. Maybe at this point he remembers like the door sensors. So he's like, shit, I probably shouldn't close it so the sensor doesn't keep going off. He's doing something. But heads out the back door. Sensor notes back door opened at 1:49 a.m. Mind you, if I didn't say it, back door was the door that led to the patio. Okay, the balcony, the patio. So the sensor notes back door open, 1:49 a.m. He closes the door behind him. Sensor notes closed at 1:50 a.m. Jose moves Tamla's body, places her on the grass, positioning her so she lines up with the balcony above. Okay? Now, this is a side note, but there have been numerous cases about killers who cover their victims' faces because it rids the guilt of the crime. I bring this up because, maybe Jose is having this feeling, and that's why he keeps Tamla's face down on the grass. He doesn't want to see her because then it becomes real. Maybe it was Bridget. I don't fucking know. Face down. He positions her how he does. Palms up. Feet perfectly pointed towards the house, keeps her face down. And again, lined up, so it makes sense. Jose then goes back inside. Back door sensor notes it opened at 1:57 a.m. and doesn't close after that. Maybe not closing the door was intentional, to keep it open just in case he needed to go back outside and do something else really quick. And he, again, was aware of the door sensors and he didn't want it to keep tracking him because there would be more questions. He works in law enforcement. He would fucking know, right? Or maybe he was just done and just didn't fully close the door behind him. Once everything was said and done and in place, Jose goes back to bed and waits until somebody finds Tamla's body, not him, of course, someone else, and goes from there. The next morning, party guests wake up and leave for work, hence the 4:10 front door being opened. When Tamla's body is discovered the next morning, he purposely does not want to touch her or move her because he wants police to find her as is. So they come up with maybe she jumped off the balcony. He doesn't want to move her. He wants the police to come up with that conclusion. Again, Jose wants to control the narrative. That's why he takes over the 911 call to keep the story straight and how he wants it to go, right? Either that night, maybe in the early morning, he contacts Bridget. Maybe he meets up with her for all we know, because they're like paranoid about records. But he fills her in on what their timeline is and what their story is. This is why, during Bridget's police interview, she comes with the information as to what happened after she left that night. This is why in Bridget's interview, she's got this majorly guilty conscience. She's painting herself as this really good person that Tamla loved. She's pointing the finger at someone else, like this bitch Jen. Okay, she's clearly like, wah. This is why she made sure to mention that, so my DNA is going to be all over them jammies. Yeah, it probably was, because you probably moved her or something, you know? I think a lot of people think Jean was involved. I mean, maybe she was, for I don't know. But like, again, everyone was wasted that night. And I think they all wanted to come up or be on the same page. Was because Jose was like a part of the sheriff's department or whatever. And they were afraid. Maybe Jose, before Jean called 911, maybe Jose told her, like, don't move her body. Don't move her body. And that's why nobody moved the body. But that's the theory I was thinking makes the most sense, especially with her cuts everywhere, her falling down the stairs. I don't think, like, it might have been an accident or something, but, like, Bridget has such a guilty conscience. It just, it just seems like she was there. And we know how she got the Xanax. I can tell you that much, Bridget. We know. She can deny all she wants, but she's a fucking idiot. So that was a theory I was thinking about as to what happened to Tamla Horsford. It would explain the cuts, the bruises on her body, the broken wrist, the scrapes, the broken nose. These steps are hard, steep, thick wooden stairs. Bridget knows. I don't know if you've ever fallen down some stairs, but I have. Luckily, my reaction when I fell down the stairs was to cover my face and like go limp. And bitch, I left like so scratched up and shit. I'm not saying like I know what it's like. I'm not saying that. It's just I think it's possible. It just with that time, I don't know. I just wanted to share because it's sitting heavy on my chest. I'm like, it's got to be those fucking stairs. And then obviously she was moved and placed. It was obvious. There's no way someone could just land like the way she did. She was placed like that. It's just a shame because whatever evidence was on Bridget's or Jose or Jean's or any of the friends' phones, like phone calls, texts, whatever evidence maybe was even on the balcony stairs, like broken pieces of wood or something, is probably long gone or it was cleaned up. But also, if they just tried to get Tamla's time of death based on the last time that she ate and the food that was left in her stomach, if they could get that time of death, it could unravel everyone's story. I don't know how it works. It might be too late now, but like that could unravel everyone's fucking story. But because Jose was friends with everyone within the sheriff's department, I mean, they didn't feel the need to do any of that or push harder for questions and answers and just push harder. Oh, that's just a theory, right? And there's so many out there. And a lot of people are like want answers because what the fuck happened? She did not just fall off of that balcony. Some people suggest that maybe they threw her off that balcony. And maybe, right? Maybe. But what about the scratches and shit? What about the scratches? What about all that? There is a change.org petition to get Tamla's case reopened again. There's actually a handful of them, and I was like confused which one is like probably the best one to sign. I'll link the one that I think is correct in the description box. I don't know if there's like a limit as to how many times they can open a case, but hopefully they can get answer for Tamla's family, right? And get whoever the fuck was responsible locked up. If you know what happened, if you got facts, come forward. Send something anonymously. Come on. At the end of the day, Tamla has this whole family that is left with no answers, no justice. Just so many questions and a bunch of shitty people who just didn't seem to care, right? You only wish them love and happiness in life, but it's so hard when you can't get answers. Just feels so bad. Let me know your thoughts, theories. You got anything? Leave it in the comment section down below. I would love to hear it. I think I'm done. This was long. Was it long? Well, we'll see. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I like this makeup look, right? Not the hair. Yeah, I'll leave in the description box down below what I used if you like anything. Like this lip. I love this lip. But other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for hanging out with me today. You make good choices. Make good choices. And I'll be seeing you guys later. Goodbye.